President Biden's selfless decision has given the Democratic Party the opportunity to unite behind a new nominee, and boy, oh boy, are we enthusiastic. We are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris and her candidacy has excited and energized the House Democratic Caucus, the Democratic Party, and the nation. Vice President Harris has earned the nomination.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries announcing their official support for Kamala Harris for president. A new piece just published on NBCNews.com is highlighting how Democrats are cautiously optimistic they may finally have the first female president with Kamala Harris, despite the challenges of sexism and racism. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale writes that Vice President Harris is entering the presidential race with some unique weapons that Hillary Clinton did not have 8 years ago. And Ali joins us now. So what kind of weapons, I'll put that in quotes, are you talking about that perhaps puts Kamala Harris in a unique position to have an advantage here?
My question, Mika, was what's changed since 2016, since 2022, and even since I wrote my book in 2021 about the role that Vice President Harris plays in Washington, and of course now that she's going to be on the top of the ticket. And I think the thing that Harris has now, according to all the conversations that I've had with lawmakers and experts at women's groups, is that she has more proof of purchase. People have seen since 2016 the 2018 influx of women elected to the House. They have then seen the role after 2022 that the Dobbs decision will play. You know, I was listening to your conversation with Simone about the idea of Republicans now focusing on immigration and the border. That was not a good time, I think Simone would agree, for Vice President Harris in the early years in this White House. But what everyone that I've spoken to has told me is that this immediate coalescing around her has so much to do with the way that she spent the last year and a half on the campaign trail. And it's because the topic set has really flowed to her skill set, which is to say she is the perfect messenger on reproductive access and abortion health care. And she has shown that out on the campaign trail. She's a very different candidate, even watching her in the last few days, than she was when I covered her in 2019 and 2020. And then certainly even after her first year in the White House, many people are paying attention to that. But I also think it's really important to just point out the ways in which the landscape has changed. And I think the way that we talk about not just women being elected in 2018 and the Dobbs decision in 2022, but most of the experts and leaders that I spoke to for this piece said you just look at a place like Michigan, where it is mostly women elected throughout the upper ranks of leadership in that state, starting and stemming from Gretchen Whitmer. That tells a larger story to people, that women can win when they run, that voters just have to vote for them. And I think that that's a really important proof point as we go ahead and talk about not just Harris as an historic candidate, which she is, but also as someone who can just simply be electable.
Well, in a guest essay for the New York Times entitled How Kamala Harris Can Win and Make History, you mentioned Hillary Clinton. She writes in part, I know a thing or two about how hard it can be for strong women candidates to fight through sexism and double standards of American politics. As a candidate, I sometimes shied away from talking about making history. I wasn't sure voters were ready for that, and I wasn't running to break a barrier. I was running because I thought I was the most qualified to do the job. While it still pains me that I couldn't break the highest, hardest glass ceiling, I'm proud that my 2 presidential campaigns made it seem normal to have a woman at the top of the ticket. Ms. Harris will face unique additional challenges as the first Black and South Asian woman to be at the top of a major party's ticket. That's real, but we shouldn't be afraid. It is a trap to believe that progress is impossible. I couldn't agree more. And Jonathan Lemire, I'll let you take it back to Ali. It's interesting because Kamala Harris has made a point in some of her opening speeches about her experience. And it's not just her experience as vice president working under this successful presidency legislatively and on the world stage, not just her experience in the Senate, often in hearings grilling Republicans from the Trump administration on their misdeeds, not just her experience as an attorney general, but her experience as a prosecutor. And I say that because whether it's in a speech, whether it's somebody lobbing an inappropriate question at her, or whether it's during a debate, Kamala Harris is used to dealing with highly unusual situations. She's dealt with criminals and abusers, people who have absolutely no walls, no boundaries around what they might say or might do, people who behave irrationally. She's used to that. She's used to that behavior. She can manage it. She's not shocked by it at all. Even bold-faced lying, disgusting attacks, that even happening in person is something she's got.
Yeah, no, she's ready for this moment. That is clear. And look, there have been some questions at times about some of her political talents, in part stemming from her 2019-2020 presidential campaign. Simply didn't go very well. It didn't. She didn't even make it to Iowa. But she has those close to her say, and frankly, those who were skeptical of her at first say, she has grown into this moment. We saw her certainly become this administration's leading voice on abortion, health care, and other issues over the last few years. And Allie, I was really struck, how often in these first days of her campaign, she is invoking, as Mika said, her time as a prosecutor and suggesting prosecutor versus felon, cop versus con, if you will, when she lays this out against Donald Trump. And also talk to us about that, but also just how that is reflective of how this moment in politics have changed, where in 2019, 2020, her prosecutor background was held against her by Democrats.
Yes.
And right now, it is seen as a real strength.
Held against her by Democrats, and including some black voters. I remember going to South Carolina and hearing this from voters, and then also hearing it from Congressman Jim Clyburn at the time when we were talking about why she hadn't yet caught on. I think Harris in 2019, again, is a very different politician than she is right now. And the issue set has changed to match where her resume is, not just in terms of taking on Trump from an offensive perspective, saying that she's the prosecutor going against someone who's a felon. Certainly she laid that out yesterday in her first rally. But the other piece of it, too, is watching the ways that she has been able to speak to women, be the first vice president to go to an abortion-providing clinic. All of that means that she is so central to the conversation around reproductive health care access, which I have said, we have said on this show, is the issue that I would put money on being the thing that turns voters outside of just, do I want to vote for a Democrat? Do I want to vote for a Republican? That's important. But I think the thing that Secretary Clinton says in her op-ed that is so essential is that this is now normal. The idea that women can run and be at the top of a ticket, it's normalizing, and that has such a big role to play here, too.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale, thank you very much for coming on this morning with your reporting.